اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. Just before I begin, it's been requested, and I'm going to mention this in Arabic and English, with regard to the children. If it's possible for everyone to look towards where their children are and what they are doing. We had a few, or I think we had one incident. I think it was one or two, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. Could be one or more incidents involving children not being looked at and observed. So just keep an eye on your children and where they're going. The last thing you want is an incident to take place, especially in محرم. Things take place. I've been on the receiving end many a time. My son broke his humerus, which is a large bone on his arm, and he cut his head open when he was outside with other kids playing around. So these things happen when you're not paying attention. And these always happen when I'm on the mumbar, so I've got an excuse. But for people that are not observing, be aware. الرجاء من الأهل بالنسبة للأطفال والأولاد، نرجو منهم أن ينتبهوا إلى أولادهم ولا يخلوا الأولاد يروحوا ويرجعوا ويسرحوا ويمرحوا. يعني قد ما نحاول خلوا الأولاد قدامكم أو قبال عيونكم مطعم ما أنتم فيكم تشوفوهم. أحلى ما يصير قصص، بتعرفوا آخر النهار بيصير قصة بيسكروا المراكز بيوقفوا المجالس. هي المشكلة اللي بتصير إذا صار قضية أو صار شيء برا، الأولاد عم تركض برا وأبصر شو وين عم يروحوا يجوا. عم يصير اجت كومبلاين، يعني جيب حدا اشتكى البارحة بالنسبة لشيء صار. يعني الرجاء من الأهل إنه ينتبهوا لأطفالهم، وأفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. الثاني يغفر الله لكم. لتعجيل فرج الإمام صاحب الأمر والزمان. الثالثة بأعلى أصواتكم. If someone was drowning and you had the means to save them, just waiting for the conversations to subside. You know, if there's such good stories, come in and tell us. We'd like to know, honestly. I'd rather not speak. I'd rather sit and observe. And if someone was drowning, or someone was in any dangerous position, and you had the capability and you were able to save them, wouldn't you endeavor or seek out to save them from the situation that they're in? And the answer is always yes. And the proof of this is whenever a hero does something like this or saves someone, you will always find this hero when he's being interviewed. What do they say? I did what anyone else would have done. I'm not a hero. This is something that is humane. A car's on fire, someone's in a car accident, you pull them out. And if someone did not, you know, when someone runs or someone avoids a danger where they could save people, they end up becoming the laughing stock of the internet. They'll make a meme or a gif of them and they'll be sent around from like a chain letter from phone to phone, and they'll make a mockery of such a person. But everyone innately knows within themselves that if someone's in danger, I have to be the one that helps them. We have identified a dangerous situation with regard to the way the world has moved. طبعا, people might say to you, hold on, is the world at the worst it has been? No, the world fluctuates. There's good eras. I think the world we're in today is the golden era for us in terms of Majalis Abu Abdullah Al-Hussein. I don't think they were ever like this. I even tell people don't believe this, but I will, but even discussing Ma'sat Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam, go listen to the majalis of Sheikh Abdul Zahra al-Ka'bi. The majalis aren't like today. He will never talk about this incident in detail back then. Go look at the old majalis of the 60s and 70s. They never used to talk about Masa'ib Fatimah al-Zahra in detail. They would be in secret majalis. It wasn't something that was open. So when the golden era comes to majalis, but we're also in the golden era of liberal movement and the movement to destroy the fibers of society, which is family. There's a war against the family unit in general. And something that I never thought about when I used to enter a Middle Eastern nation and they'd ask you for Ism al-Thulathi or al-Ruba'i, they'll ask you for your name and your father's name and your forefathers. And I said, why would they want to know all this? Now I know the importance of knowing this. Because when you have a child here, you enter the hospital, they won't write it's your child. They say the child of the lady. The female that gave birth, it's her child. Who's the father? It's up for grabs. I still got a pamphlet once. I walked into a doctor's surgery. I was still a teenager. I was about 15. And I picked up this pamphlet and I kept it. It had a picture of this child that looked like a stunned mullet. And it said, "Are you my daddy?" The pamphlet. And I kept it. You know, and I just never thought that it'd be of such significance today. Because of the destruction of the family unit. And I'll ask you all now, are you all going to answer the call when a hero is needed, especially in this situation? Because the most in need individual in this world is the child. The child has the most need. They are the most vulnerable. There's no one more vulnerable than a child. Allah Azza wa Jal, when He mentions the child, He says, وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. That when a child is born, Allah is very distinct here when He says that a child knows nothing. That a child has no knowledge. But the difference between a child and artificial intelligence, that's enough. Stop flicking the bottle. The difference between a child and an artificial intelligence or an inanimate object like this lectern or this microphone is that the child is naturally predisposed or naturally susceptible to what? To being programmed and advanced and learn. And this is what we call what? Fitrah. That Allah Azza wa Jal has given us this natural predisposition to learn. That a child will learn. And a child is always consuming information. They ask questions. They observe things. And that's why when you tell your child, Insha'Allah, some parents, when they say Insha'Allah, the child says, yes, we're going. Some parents, when they say Insha'Allah, the child says that means no. The way that you mention it, this is the way that they begin to consume and understand. Even when you tell your child that we're going somewhere that they're not, Or you scare the child with the boogeyman, or whatever they call the boogeyman in different countries in the world. This is what they start to do, is they start to instill fear into others around them. Now Allah mentions this in the Quran afterwards. He says, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ, that Allah Azza wa Jalla says, and He made for you what? السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. That Allah made for you, as a child, as-sam'a, that you hear. And then He says, wal-absar, that you see, wal-af'ida, and your hearts. Yani your hearts being that they are the ones that understand and absorb this information and go through what they learn in order to know how to apply what they learn. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So that you may be grateful. La tashkurun doesn't necessarily only mean for me to say ashukru lillah, alhamdulillah. It's tashkurun on how I apply what I've been given. How did I use my hearing? How did I use my sight? And how have I used my heart and understanding? Anything you say to a child will stay on forever. Good or bad examples. Good or bad things. Anything, as I mentioned before, any point you make, any habit you develop, the child will see this and it will be passed on like genetics. You know how things are passed on genetically. And we're not talking about just passed on to my child. It will be passed on to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. That's something that you pass down. We remembered, and this is something very scary. Why? When you teach someone how to pray, this is good. They teach their children how to pray. They teach their children, and you're sitting in your grave, and it's like someone sitting in first class, and he's got all these stewardesses around him saying, we're at your service, what do you need next? You know, every time someone begins to pray. However, in the opposite, I remember one young man, he said to me, he swore to somebody, Fulan. And I said, why are you swearing to him? He said, when I was 14, he was the first one that took me into an RSL club to gamble. And I said, Subhanallah. When someone does something good, you say, Rahamallah Fulan. That he taught me this. He said he got me addicted to gambling. And now I'm a gambler. You imagine the next person he teaches, and the next person, this initial person, is the one that gets punished for each individual. Just like Qabil. Qabil was the first to commit murder on the earth. Every time murder has been committed, Qabil has a share. Because he's the one that started this sunnah. He's the one that started this tradition of murder. Now, most parents prepare their children for dunya. Education, yes, all the parents look for the right schools. They get them their tutors. They make sure, especially in the Iraqi community, every person you see is either a doctor or engineer. That's what they push for. Kid's got to go to school. He's got no other way or out. Like I remember one guy I was talking to who was a surgeon. I said, why did you become a surgeon? He said, my father wanted me to become a surgeon. I said, were you interested in this? He said, not at all. But that's the direction I took. So that when it comes to dunya, they push you in this direction. You need to go and do something like this. When it comes to prosperity and money, they're looking out for you on where I'm going to, if the person will bequeath or inherit a good piece of land, and they make sure they get married in the right way. That's it. All that is looked at. That's for most parents. Why is it when it comes to with respect for the hereafter, these are the last things that people like to look at? Does your child pray? Yeah, we might get him to pray here. Does your daughter wear hijab? She's moved. When I say, do they wear hijab? I'm talking about, do they actually wear hijab? In the actual meaning of hijab. Not does she wear, she's a size 8 and wears a size 8 dress, or mkhaswar, to make sure that her body is showing. Or she's, got every type of colour on her face. and she has an Instagram page, and she's sitting there smiling at every guy. And no, this is not hijab. Hijab means in the meaning of hijab. The real meaning, what is hijab? It's not a fashion, you're not a hijabi fashionista. You know, that's what was made for Barbie, and not for the Muslimah. And this is what we're looking at. And when it comes to fasting in the holy month, you see people, they're not too concerned about their child when it comes to this and the hereafter. Because a good child is a blessing for parents. A good child's a blessing. Why? Because when people, you know, when the messenger of God said, "La tasubbu aba'akum," do not swear to your forefathers or your fathers. And they said, "Ya Rasulullah, how do we swear to our fathers?" When you do things that irritate people, you do the wrong thing. You know how to think about it. Someone, you're walking outside your house and someone does a burnout in front of your house. Okay? He lights up the rubber, you see smoke, you hear someone outside says, "Yal'an abuk." Isn't that what they say? The first thing they do, they strike his father. When someone does something good, what do they say? Rahimallah waldik. Someone's giving out, people curse the one's father that is doing something wrong, and the one's father that's doing something right, they say, "May Allah have mercy on this person." Allah says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. That this is the thing we want, a قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ from our wives and our children. When we say قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ, especially from our children, it means that when something's قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ, it's a joy to you. It's a joy to your eye. It's something that makes you so happy when you have a good child. That's why when people look at what is the musibah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, for me, that really rocks me more than any other of the martyrdoms, is Ali al-Akbar. Especially when they mention that Imam Hussein's son, and the Imam says, was the most alike to the Prophet in character and in speech, okay, and in appearance. The most alike to the Prophet. That if you think about it, when he says, when we yearn to look at the messenger of God, we used to look at him. So that's what makes a tragedy so big. When you have a child like that is taken from you. It's different to when a child is a burden upon his parents and a headache upon his parents. So much so that when he's gone, they say, yeah, he went to a better place. That's been very optimistic about the matter, but in other words, he got out of our hair. He left our life. Hala, a bad child can break your back. Literally. You see some people, when they have a bad child, they're not the same anymore. Takes away from them and the way that they live. Hala, today raising the child is more difficult because the awareness levels must be higher. See, before, and I don't need to go overseas. My brother, Sheikh Ali, that was here last year, when we were kids, I remember we were small kids and we were playing with our neighbours. These are Aussie neighbours. And my brother had a little fight with the Aussie. He was about, 6 years old, 7 years old. The other Aussie neighbour came out from both houses. He smacked my brother and the other child and sent them both home. This is Australia. We're not talking about the Middle East. That your neighbours would discipline you. Even your neighbours would interfere in your life. You're doing something wrong, go back home. I'm watching you. If you don't get back to your front door, you know, they would take their matters into their hands. Now parents have become declawed and defanged. The parents can't. The parents sit there and negotiate with their children now. They will try and explain the matter because the way the world has become and the way that you've been limited in terms of, you know, I was at a school once and I mentioned the word detention. They said, we don't use that word anymore. But what do you use now? It's called reflection. What do you mean it's called reflection? It's detention. You're detaining this person. No. We're making them to reflect. You know, you think, where is this? They're turning children into fairies. Whatever happened to a child growing up into a man? You know, whatever happened to this upbringing that's supposed to exist? So, raising the child is a greater responsibility today for those that wish to become parents. Some people don't want to become parents. There's no obligation to become parents. But those that want to, because it doesn't take rocket science to make a child. I'm sure there's no one here that's incapable of doing what's necessary to have children. But it's raising that child. It's bringing up that child. And whenever you're parenting and you see the difficulty of it, I always, when I'm sitting down, I always say, Allah yarhamak ya bay. Rahmatullah alayk ya bay. Because I think to myself, how did he do this? It is so difficult to parent. It is one of the most difficult tasks to do. Now, the child perceives not as you see them sitting here, but even in the womb. When the child is in the womb, they perceive. One woman, she mentioned, this was in a study, that when her favorite television show would come on and the music for that show would come on, that her baby would be crying. The second the music of the show came on, her baby would go quiet. And when she spoke to the pediatrician, he told her, because when you were pregnant with this child, you would be very active, and when your show came on, you would sit down and settle. The child has developed this way. That same development. That's why, if you notice, you know, you've seen some of those videos. Have you seen the one where the person's doing the adhan, or I think the father's doing the adhan in the child's ear, and when he says, "Wa ashhadu anna aliyan waliyullah," you see the child smile. Oh, and you see their face light up when he hears this. This is not only from the fitrah. When you hear the name of Ali, see how happy you get. It's not only from the fitrah. This is also included in this world, the effort that the parents do this. That's why when the child is born, the first bit of sustenance that they receive is generally the mother's breast milk for the material sustenance, but the first spiritual sustenance that a child receives is what? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. If they hear the adhan in their right ear, that's the first bit of spiritual sustenance that the child receives. And this has that effect. So what you listen to when you're pregnant, for the sisters, and what they, because I don't believe in this new society that says we're pregnant. Only a woman gets pregnant. You know, we're pregnant doesn't exist. Your wife's pregnant, not you. Sorry, I had to put that in. What a woman listens to and what a woman views affects the child. And when you tell your child, do what as I say, not as I do, Qasim, do as I say, not as I do, what happens? The child doesn't care about that. The child watches what you actually do. And everything you do, when you want children, as it is, when God is watching you, you need to fear God and not do anything that's haram. But I'm not saying even things that are more adult. You might do things that you won't do in front of a child. You need to let this child view you in the best possible picture. How many children, I want you to pay attention, you kids, how many children are here with their parents? Put your hand up. Put your hand up if your parents are with you. Okay. Put your hands down. Could you please put your hand up if your parents are not with you? Okay? Now, unless you're an orphan or your parents are working in specific emergency employment that's required, or your parents are khaddam working around the center, your parents should be here. And that's your duty. When you get home, you see your parents, you tell them you have to be at Majlis Abu Abdullah Al-Hussein alayhi salam. This is what's important. These children are coming now. This is prepubescent children that turn up. Once puberty kicks in, then they start to make decisions that are different because of their carnal desires. However, when their parents are here, they have a longing to come to the majlis that their parents came to, that they were used to attending. The child needs, because this is the first part of our discussion about what the solution is. The child needs to be confident about their religion. They need to have confidence. They need to be proud about Islam. They need to understand what their religion is about and what life is really about. Because if the child hasn't been looked at from the very beginning, the task becomes more and more difficult as they grow older. And the difficulty becomes, it becomes like you're walking up a slanted incline, you know, like something that, a hill that is got pebbles that are making you fall back down, or there's soap on it. It's so difficult for you to climb the older the child becomes, because they become more molded. Now, today's danger isn't small. When I said it's a great danger, because not only have the wolves increased in number, but the wolves are in your house now. If you're not the one influencing your child is being influenced by an influenza, as my brother Sheikh Ali calls them. Not an influencer, he calls them an influenza because they're a virus. That these people are, how many youths, and this is something I want to talk in the coming nights, are affected by the wave of toxic masculinity. That these people that dress like men, and they are tyrants. And when they try to teach people how to be like men, they are not men. That's not how men act. Because then I'll be talking about masculinity in the coming nights and the difference between what masculinity is and what this varmint is. You know? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen wasn't a top G. You need to understand that. So you are trying to be like Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. He wasn't like these people with no manners and no morals and no moral compass whatsoever. Choices are so abundant in this world today, and people are so wasteful. And you see people today, they'll be wearing a t-shirt that you could buy at Best and Less for $2, but because it has a long name brand on it, usually some Italian or whatever name brand, the t-shirt costs about $900. And they'll buy it. This is what they'll purchase. That's how the world's become. So everyone is deep in their work, in developing their careers, making their money, and God knows who's raising their kids and teaching their kids. They say, oh yeah, I put my kid in a private school. What do you think everyone in a private school knows? You know, most people that put their... I want you next time, go to a private school, an Islamic school. I want you to look at how many mothers turn up to drop off their kid are wearing hijab. Go have a look. This kid came out of that house and he's sitting with your kid. God knows what he's watching there. God knows what material he's perusing. I need to be careful and don't wait till it's too late. Why do I just my life pretty much, just what I live. For the last 15, 20 years I get a phone call. My child is getting into trouble, you know. My child wants to marry the wrong person. Or worse yet, my child likes the other gender. This happens. More than you think it doesn't happen. Or worse yet, something worse than that, yes, my child doesn't believe in God. They've reached a point where they do not believe in God. And I've sat with some of these people. I've sat with some of these youth that don't believe in God, and it's like you're talking to a brick wall. In Arabic, we say, al-may. You talk to them, they're already sold. Because their parents left them. I remember I sat with one youth, 19-year-old, that was an atheist. He said, I used to pray, I used to fast. I said, I don't believe you. He said, yes, I did. I said, all right, read the Fatiha for me. He couldn't read the Fatiha, which is the simplest surah. Even that guy that claimed to be Imam Mehdi, he was able to read it. You remember the one on the famous YouTube video? He was able to read the Fatiha. And then someone comes around and says, you say read the Fatiha, he can't. Because you never knew how to read the Fatiha. You never knew Islam from the very beginning. So I don't think, where are my children at all times? And I'm going to leave you with this hadith to think about before we go to the solution that is practical for us tomorrow night, inshallah. This hadith is mentioned by the sixth holy Imam, Al-Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. And in this hadith, I'm gonna, not paraphrasing, but I'm just taking the first segment. Basically, he says, Addabani Abi bithalath. So he says that my father raised me or taught me, or these are the manners that he gave me, with three things. And these are essential because who is teaching this? Imam al-Baqir is teaching this to Imam al-Sadiq. So he is telling him what? The way Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein taught him. He says, Imam Zayn al-Abidin said this to Imam al-Baqir. Imam al-Baqir says to his son, Addabani Abi bithalath, and then Imam al-Sadiq says the narration. Addabani Abi bithalath. Three things, my father, and this is what you need to focus upon. In the first one, he says, Man yashab sahib as-su' la yaslam. That if I befriend a bad friend, and this is what you got to look at. Who is my kid or my child with? Who are his friends? Because whoever has bad friends is never safe. Do you remember Uday, the son of Saddam? You know when they shot him, you know devils, they don't die that quickly. When they shot him with an AK-47. I think, like, you know, people will hear some rapper got shot 6-7 times, they go, wow, he lived. Uday is a pure devil. He was shot with an AK-47. You know the rounds on AK-47, 7.62 millimeter rounds. He was hit 15 times. And he was still alive. Iblis, he won't die. 15 times he didn't die, except he was with a limp. His best friend who associated with him because it's his friend. If I'm friends with the devil, then the devil will leave me alone. One day he said we were out. He said he looked at me and said, why can you walk normally but I can't? So he grabbed a pole and he broke my leg so I can limp like he limps. Think like that. See, sometimes people associate with the mob. They think if I'm part of the mafia or hang out with these tough guys, you know, they'll look after me. No. What they actually do. One of the youth at our center, long time ago, he went in towards a life of crime. He said, one of the guys I was with, and we were very close friends, another criminal, he said, I got into a fight with another person. This same friend that was with the whole time jumped me and bashed me with the other guy. But you know, they say there's no honor amongst thieves. These people have sold God. Do you think they're not going to sell you? And you're nothing to them. They've sold the Jannah. They don't care. They're going to say, if I keep a bad friend, this bad friend will never be good to me. He will use me. Once my expiry date is up, you know, sayonara, you're gone. The second thing he mentions to him, he says, من لم ومن لا يقيد ألفاظه يندم. That the one that is not careful with what they say will regret. This is also to you when you're dealing with your child. Be careful of what you say to your child. You know, sometimes people will threaten their child with something that they know they're not going to do. Or you promised your child, imagine you promised your child, if you get a 99.6 ATA, for example, I'm going to buy you a Lamborghini, and it's not in your means, and the child then cracks out a 99.7 and you can't pull out that Lamborghini, you know what you're going to look like to your child? Your child's going to resent you. Those hours that they study, and you say, yeah, I got you into uni. I wanted the Lamborghini, you can have my degree. You know, because you promised me. So I need to be certain of what I say before I utter it. The third thing that he says to him, all of these, each one of these lines has a whole, you can sit and give subjects on it, discussion on it, but I'm just making it as concise as possible because this is not our discussion. He says, من يدخل مداخل السوء ومداخل السوء والسوء يتهم. If you enter a bad place, you'll be accused. It's late at night, you need to withdraw money. Back in the old days, the only ATM is in a pub. You think you walk in there to withdraw money and someone's going to walk past and say, oh, this poor guy probably needed some money, went to the pub. No, before you know it, everyone will be saying how many schooners you knocked over and how many of the pokies you were slapping the whole night. That's all they're going to be thinking about. That's all they're going to be saying. The accusations will come flying out. Any place that you enter that is suspicious or attended to by what? Ghastly people, you will be accused. Three things. Your friends, your speech, and the places you attend. Alhamdulillah, this is obviously not to the people that are here, because you have come to the holiest of places. Ma'tam Abi Abdullah Al-Hussein, alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, tomorrow night we'll continue with the method of how we deal today, as opposed to the other two methods that I said would fail last night. Tonight, the discussion, inshallah, the Sheikh will talk about, is about a child for Imam Hussein alayhi salam that did not attend Karbala. And this child, her name was Fatima al-Sughra, or as they call her, and she's famously known as Fatima al-Alila, because she was too ill to leave with them. Well, the nature of her illness isn't really expressed. But they decided to embark on their journey while she was still asleep, as not to alert her of the situation, as not to make her concerned about this. As they had prepared themselves to leave on this journey, the child awoke. And look at this child that is ill. You know, when a child is ill, they would not even move from their bed. When she saw them leaving, she said, where are you going? What is this journey that you are about to embark upon? Where are you about to go? And she asked her father, Abu Abdullah Al-Hussein, where are you going to, and why is everyone leaving? And the Imam alayhi salam said, look, my dear daughter, the journey is a long journey and you are ill. You cannot come with us on this journey. It's not possible with your illness. However, she attempted to get up. She attempted to join the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And the Imam at this time said that you cannot come with me. You're not able to, you were sick. So she said, no, take me with you. I could be of use. I could be someone that prepares the horses. I could be someone that prepares your beds. I could be someone that brings you what you want. I could serve you in any way. Just take me on this journey. And the Imam says, it's not possible with your illness to come with us. And then she realizes that there's no way that they're going to take her with him. So then she starts to negotiate her position. She says to Abi Abdullah Al-Hussein, at least leave someone with me. Can you not leave my auntie Zainab to stay? Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, Zainab alayhi salam, she has a task ahead when she gets to Karbala. She is the one that will be left with the women. She is the one that will be seated with her cheek upon her hand on the night of the Hadi Ashar, on the 11th night. And she'll be the one that will be confused at this point where she's left all alone. No Hussein, no Abbas, no Ali al-Akbar, no one there around the tents. She is the one that has to be looking after or tending to the children. And then she says, okay, then why don't you leave Ruqayya, Sukaina? Why don't you leave one of my sisters to stay with me? And Imam Hussein says, each one of them has a task. Then she says, oh father, there's still one I can look after, you can leave with me. Someone that doesn't have a task to go with you. And she says, take Asghar, leave Ali al-Asghar, leave Abdullah with me. Leave Abdullah to stay with me so that I can look after him. He's an infant. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, even the infant has a role. Even the infant on the day of Ashura will have a stance, and the most important stance, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam will take him to show you what type of an enemy he is facing. He says to them to give him something to drink, and instead they serve him an arrow. ألا ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that frequent Majalis Aba Abdullah Al-Hussein and Ziyarat Al-Hussein, and of those that will receive his intercession. And هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.